The storm hit Velastra Prime like a living monster, tearing branches from tall trees and shaking the ground with each strike of thunder. Sergeant Aaron Holt pushed forward through thick vines, rain hitting his armor like small stones. He had been separated from his exploration team after a sudden rockslide forced them to retreat in different directions. The communicator on his wrist kept blinking, a red signal, no connection. He knew the others were searching for him, but the jungle made everything difficult. The wind roared, and the sky turned darker, as if the world wanted to swallow him whole. Aaron kept walking, scanning the ground for safe footing. Trying to find higher ground. He had survived worse environments before, but Velastra Prime felt different. The air was heavy with the smell of strange plants, and every sound from the forest felt unfamiliar. Still, he walked forward with calm steps, because panic never solved anything. Humans had learned long ago to survive first, fear later. As he moved past a tree with glowing blue bark, he heard a faint sound, something like a soft whimper. At first, he thought it might be an animal caught in the storm, but the sound came again, weak and trembling. Aaron's instincts sharpened. He slowly shifted his flashlight toward the bushes. There, half hidden behind wide leaves, lay a small figure. At first, Aaron saw only a pale glow and long silver hair stuck to mud. He moved closer, lowered his light, and his eyes widened. It was a young alien girl, her delicate limbs trembling, her shoulder bleeding badly. Her skin shimmered with a faint blue tone, marked by thin, glowing patterns that pulsed slowly like fading light. She looked injured badly. The girl tried to move away when she saw him, but she was too weak. Her large purple eyes widened with fear as she whispered something in her language. Aaron couldn't understand the words, but he didn't need translation to know she was terrified. He crouched down slowly, lowering his voice. "Easy. I'm not here to hurt you." The girl shook harder, trying to push herself away, but even that small motion made her wince. Aaron noticed her right leg was twisted unnaturally, and her breathing was fast and shallow. She would not survive the storm in this condition. No living being would. He extended his hands in front of her so she could see he carried no weapon aimed at her. Rain dripped down his face, and his clothes were soaked, but he stayed still. "I'm going to help," he said softly. She didn't understand the words, but something in his tone made her pause. Her species, whoever they were, had likely never spoken to a human before. The galaxy was large, and the Illyrian Empire was known only through vague rumors in human space. She looked too young to be a soldier. Maybe she was a traveler. Maybe she was lost. Maybe she was something more important. The storm cracked open again with a violent boom, and the girl flinched as if the sky itself was attacking her. Aaron saw her strength fading. He did not wait any longer. Gently, he reached out, sliding one arm under her back and another under her legs. The moment he lifted her, she cried out softly, but she didn't fight him. Her body felt too light, too fragile in his arms. He began walking, holding her close to protect her from the cold rain. Each step was careful, steady. The girl kept staring at him, her expression mixed with pain and fear. She tried to speak again, her voice barely audible through the storm, but Aaron only shook his head softly. "It's okay. You're safe now." She didn't understand the words, but she seemed to understand the calmness in his voice. Her trembling slowed just a little. Aaron kept moving through the forest, searching for a dry place or at least some natural shelter. Lightning flashed above, revealing giant trees with thick roots rising like walls around him. He spotted an opening beneath one of the roots, a small hollow that might offer protection from the rain. It wasn't perfect, but it was better than the open storm. He crouched inside with the girl still in his arms. The ground was damp but stable. Aaron set her down carefully on a patch of dry soil, but she grabbed his arm weakly as if afraid he would leave her. He stayed close, opening his field medical kit. The girl watched every movement, with wide, cautious eyes. "I know it hurts," he murmured, "but I need to treat your wound." Her shoulder was bleeding, and her leg looked injured. He disinfected her wound gently, using soft pressure to stop the bleeding. She winced but did not pull away. Her trust was fragile, but it was there. He wrapped her shoulder in sterile bandages, making sure not to tighten them too much. While treating her leg, Aaron noticed the elegant patterns glowing on her skin, something biological, maybe cultural, maybe a part of her species' nature. When he touched her ankle, she whispered something weakly. She sounded like she was telling him her name. Lyra? He guessed. Her eyes widened, surprised that he understood. She nodded slowly. Okay, Lyra, he said, giving her a faint smile. I'm Aaron. She stared at him, repeating the word softly, as if tasting it. Ah. Ron. Ron. He chuckled gently. Close enough. She studied his face with cautious curiosity. Maybe she had never seen a human before. Or maybe she had seen pictures or heard stories that probably described humans as aggressive, war-hungry creatures. Many alien species believed that humans were dangerous because of their past conflicts. But Aaron was just a man trying to keep someone alive. The storm continued outside, but inside the hollow it felt calmer. Lyra's breathing slowed, though she still looked exhausted. Aaron gave her water from his canteen, helping her sip slowly. Her fingers brushed his hand, and she flinched again, maybe surprised at the warmth of human skin. She whispered something too soft to understand, but her tone sounded confused, as if she couldn't comprehend why a human would help her. Hours passed slowly, with rain pouring relentlessly. Aaron stayed awake, keeping watch for any danger animals, falling branches, or anything else the jungle might send. He listened to Lyra's soft breathing, making sure she didn't fall unconscious. Then suddenly, her bracelet emitted a faint beep. It was small, and shaped like a silver vine wrapped around her wrist. A tiny holographic symbol flashed in the air for a moment before disappearing. Aaron didn't know what it meant, but Lyra reacted instantly. Her eyes widened with fear, and she whispered rapidly in her language. She tried to sit up, grabbed his arm again, and pointed nervously toward the sky. The gesture was clear, something was coming. Aaron didn't know that her signal had been sent hours ago, carried through the storm and straight into the hands of the Illyrian Empire. He didn't know that Lyra was not just any girl, but the princess of her people. And he didn't know that somewhere far above the clouds, massive starships were already changing direction, moving fast toward her location. He only saw her fear and tried to calm her again. It's okay. Nothing will happen to you. She shook her head weakly, trying to warn him, but her body was too tired. Her voice broke halfway through her words. She leaned back against the wall of the hollow, breathing unevenly. Aaron placed his jacket over her to keep her warm. Even though he didn't understand her message, he understood one thing clearly: she was scared for him, too. Night fell slowly, and the storm softened. Aaron knew they couldn't stay there forever. As soon as the wind calmed enough, he lifted her again. She didn't resist this time. She rested her head lightly against his shoulder, exhausted. He stepped out into the wet jungle, his boots sinking slightly into the mud. His communicator blinked again, but this time, he saw a faint signal. His team was searching nearby. If he could reach higher ground, maybe he could reconnect with them. With Lyra in his arms and determination in his steps, he began the long climb toward a ridge. The air was cooler now, carrying the scent of fresh rain. Lyra's eyes fluttered half open, watching him silently. For the first time since he found her, her expression carried something other than fear. Maybe it was relief. Maybe it was disbelief. Maybe it was the first spark of trust. Aaron didn't know what her people thought of humans, but at that moment, he didn't care. She needed help, and he wasn't the type to leave anyone behind. Above the clouds, far higher than Aaron could imagine, enormous ships broke out of warp space, sleek vessels shaped like wings of light. The Illyrian fleet had arrived. Their sensors locked onto Lyra's signal, their weapons armed automatically, and high in the royal flagship, the Illyrian queen herself stood with fire in her eyes, believing that her daughter had been captured by a dangerous human. Down below, walking through the quiet jungle with the injured girl in his arms, Aaron had no idea that an empire was coming for him. The storm had passed, But the jungle of Velastra Prime still felt heavy with silent tension. The ground was wet, the leaves dripped slowly, and distant creatures made soft calls that echoed through the trees. Aaron Holt moved carefully, carrying Lyra in his arms as he climbed the muddy path toward the ridge. The faint signal from his communicator flickered again, showing only a weak green light. It wasn't enough to call his team, but it gave him hope that he was not completely cut off anymore. Lyra shifted slightly in his arms, her eyes half open. The glow on her skin pulsed faintly, like distant stars fading in and out. Aaron could feel the heat of her fever growing, and he tightened his hold gently, trying to keep her steady. "You're going to be okay," he whispered softly. She didn't understand all his words, but his tone seemed to reach her. She blinked tiredly and rested her head back against his shoulder. She still looked afraid, but there was something else in her expression now, something that seemed like trust slowly forming. The higher Aaron climbed, the easier it became to see patches of the sky through the thick canopy. He kept looking up, hoping to spot a rescue drone or a flare from his team, but instead, the sky felt strangely darker, heavier, as though something large was silently watching. Lyra sensed it too. Her fingers clung to his shirt with weak force, and she whispered a warning in her language. Aaron slowed, listening. "What is it?" he asked. Though he knew she couldn't reply in words, he understood. She pointed toward the sky with trembling fingers. Her expression was full of fear, not for herself but for him. And that fear was enough for Aaron to pause. Something was coming. He adjusted his grip on her and kept moving quickly. He needed to find shelter, a safe point, or at least a place where he could contact his team before whatever was out there reached them. After nearly an hour of steady walking, Aaron found a rocky ledge that overlooked the vast jungle. The view stretched for miles, rolling green trees, silver rivers, and distant mountains glowing faintly under the morning light. He gently set Lyra down on a flat rock, keeping her close as he tried to activate his communicator again. The device blinked again, and finally connected for a brief second. He sent a quick distress signal, but at that exact moment, an enormous shadow crossed the sky. Lyra gasped and grabbed Aaron's arm, pulling herself closer. He looked upward instinctively and froze. A massive ship, silent and smooth like a dark blade, drifted across the clouds. Its surface shimmered like liquid metal, catching the sunlight in waves. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time, and it was definitely not human. More shadows appeared behind it. One, then two, then many huge ships forming a crescent across the sky. They moved with perfect precision, like a fleet trained for war. Aaron had seen alien vessels before, but nothing like this. These ships looked advanced, powerful, and ready for battle. Lyra made a soft sound, somewhere between relief and fear. She whispered something that sounded like a name. Maybe the name of her people. "So, these are yours," Aaron said quietly. Her eyes widened, and she nodded weakly. He could see the emotion in her gaze. She was relieved to know her people had come for her, but also terrified of what they might do if they saw her with him. Above the planet, inside one of the largest ships, alarms echoed. Soldiers rushed to formation as their captain received a report on the princess's signal. "Her beacon is active on the surface," a soldier said. "Coordinates locked." The captain bowed his head. "Prepare the landing squads. The queen wants her daughter retrieved immediately." Aaron didn't know any of this. All he saw were strange ships moving like silent giants across the sky. He looked back at Lyra. She clung to his arm as if she were afraid he would run away. He wasn't planning to. "We need to move," he muttered. He lifted her again, though his muscles were starting to ache from hours of carrying her through difficult terrain. But he didn't care. He kept walking along the ridge, searching for any safe path. The jungle below rustled suddenly. Something large moved through the trees. Aaron tensed, tightening his grip. He slowed his steps, listening. A pair of glowing eyes appeared between the leaves. Then another. A creature emerged tall, with long legs and teeth shaped like curved blades. It hissed, its skin shifting colors like living camouflage. Aaron stepped back slowly, placing himself between the creature and Lyra. She held onto him tightly, whispering something in fear. "It's all right," he said softly. "I've got you." The creature lunged. Aaron dodged to the side, rolling over the mud while keeping Lyra close against his chest. The creature's claws scraped the rock, sending sharp sparks into the air. Aaron reached for his sidearm and fired twice. The shots hit the creature's flank, causing it to roar in pain. It turned toward him again, anger burning in its shimmering eyes. He stepped back, protecting Lyra with his body. She watched, terrified, but also amazed. Humans were seen as aggressive, but she was seeing something completely different: courage, protection, and a strange kind of softness beneath the strength. The creature lunged again. Aaron fired one more shot, hitting it near the neck. The creature staggered, hissed, and finally collapsed, disappearing into the bushes. Aaron breathed hard, his chest rising and falling rapidly. Lyra looked up at him, her gaze full of something unspoken. He wasn't a soldier to her anymore. He was someone who risked his life for her again and again. "You're safe," he whispered, brushing a leaf from her hair. She placed her hand over his, a small gesture of gratitude. But there was little time to rest. The air around them suddenly vibrated with a strange hum. Aaron turned and saw a bright vertical tear appear in the sky, like a door opening. A beam of light shot downward, hitting the jungle floor only a short distance away. Lyra's eyes widened in fear. She whispered a single word. One Aaron didn't understand, but her tone said everything. Her people were here, and they were not coming peacefully. Aaron held her close and backed away slowly. But it was too late. Shapes began to descend from the beam, soldiers wearing shining armor, elegant but threatening, holding long weapons that glowed softly at the ends. They moved with perfect discipline, spreading out into a circle pattern. Lyra called out weakly to them, but her voice was too soft. The soldiers did not hear her. Their eyes locked onto Aaron instead. He raised his hands slowly. He did not want to fight them. He only wanted them to see the truth that he was not hurting her. "Easy," he said quietly, though he knew they couldn't understand. Lyra struggled in his arms, trying to speak louder, but she had no strength left. Her wounds drained her energy. She pressed her face against Aaron's shoulder, as if afraid they would take her away from him. Then the soldiers moved forward, surrounding them in a wide circle. Their weapons pointed directly at Aaron, ready to fire at a moment's command. Aaron did not step back. He didn't run. He didn't even raise his weapon. He simply stood still, shielding Lyra with his body, in the same quiet, determined way he had since he found her. Above them, the sky darkened again as a larger ship descended. Its shape was majestic, like the wing of a giant bird. The soldiers knelt as the ship's ramp opened. Lyra's breath caught in her throat. She whispered one trembling word, her mother's title. The queen, the Illyrian queen, stepped out, her presence commanding, her silver hair moving like floating light behind her. Her eyes locked onto Aaron immediately. Her daughter was in the arms of a human, bruised, injured, weak. A wave of fury spread through her gaze. Aaron stood frozen, unsure of what she would do, but he held Lyra close anyway. Lyra reached up with trembling hands, trying to speak, but her voice broke. She looked at her mother desperately, trying to tell her everything. The queen did not speak yet. She walked closer, her soldiers tense, their weapons aimed at Aaron. And then, for the first time, she looked not at him, but at the way he held her daughter. Bruised arms, tired steps, but gentle hands. The queen hesitated. The jungle fell silent. The moment stretched, filled with tension thick enough to break. Aaron did not move. Lyra whispered again, tears forming in her eyes, and deep inside the queen's chest, something began to shift. Her next words would change the fate of two species. The air around the ridge felt heavy with tension as the Illyrian queen stood before Aaron, her daughter weakened in his arms. Soldiers surrounded them in a perfect circle, weapons glowing softly, ready to fire on command. Yet, no one moved. The entire jungle seemed to hold its breath. Aaron stood still, his breathing slow but steady. He didn't know what the queen would do, but he wasn't going to let go of Lyra. She clung to his shirt, her delicate fingers trembling, her eyes shining with fear. She tried to speak again, but her voice came out cracked and soft. The queen's eyes flickered toward her, watching closely. For the first time since she appeared, the queen took a deep breath. Her voice, when she finally spoke, was cold and sharp. She spoke in her language, every word full of command. Lyra whispered something back, struggling to lift her head. She sounded desperate, pleading. The queen listened, but her expression stayed unreadable. Aaron couldn't understand the words, but he understood the emotion. Lyra was trying to explain what happened, trying to tell her mother that he had saved her. The queen slowly walked closer. The soldiers tensed even more, but she lifted her hand slightly, signaling them not to shoot. Her silver armor shimmered under the soft light. Her eyes, glowing faintly with the same patterns Lyra had, studied Aaron closely. Her voice finally shifted to a universal translation mode. "Human," she said, the word filled with distrust and disbelief. "Why do you hold my daughter?" Aaron kept his voice calm. "Because she was injured and alone. I found her during the storm." The queen narrowed her eyes. "You expect me to believe that? She would have died without help," he replied steadily. "Anyone with a heart would have done the same." A slight shock passed through the soldiers at his words. Humans were known to the Illyrians only through stories filled with violence, conflict, and destruction. But the man standing before them did not match what they had been taught. Lyra reached up, placing a weak hand against her mother's arm. "Ah, Ron," she whispered, trying to say his name. "Saved me." Her voice trembled, but her eyes were clear. She looked at her mother with all the strength she had left. The queen's expression changed barely, but enough for Aaron to notice. She touched Lyra's hand gently, her face softening for a moment. Then she looked back at Aaron. "You carried her? Through the forest?" her voice asked, still suspicious but no longer hostile. "Yes," Aaron answered. "I couldn't leave her there." "And you protected her from the creature?" she asked again, looking at the wound marks on her armor. "Yes." The queen stared at him for a long moment. Slowly, her eyes dropped to the bruises on his arms, places where carrying Lyra had hurt him. She traced the pattern with her gaze, reading the story written on his skin. Finally, she straightened and spoke to her soldiers. Her voice was loud, powerful, and filled with authority. "Stand down." The words echoed through the air, strong and shocking. The soldiers froze in disbelief. Many of them glanced at each other, confused. None of them had expected this. One soldier hesitated. "Your Majesty, he is a human." The queen cut him off with a sharp look. "I said, stand down." Every weapon lowered instantly. The sky itself felt lighter when the aggressive tension vanished. The glow from their weapons dimmed, and the soldiers took a respectful step back. Aaron exhaled slowly. He didn't relax completely, but the immediate threat was gone. The queen faced him again. "Give her to me," she said quietly. Aaron looked down at Lyra. Her fingers gripped his shirt, refusing to let go. She shook her head weakly, as if saying she didn't want to be separated from him yet. She trusted him now. She wasn't afraid anymore. Aaron turned back to the queen. "She's scared," he said softly. "She needs gentle movement. Her leg is injured." The queen blinked, surprised that a human dared to speak so calmly to her. But she nodded slowly. She stepped closer and reached out with careful hands. Aaron helped her lift Lyra, making sure not to cause more pain. Lyra whimpered softly but did not resist. She kept one hand on Aaron until the last moment, as if trying to tell him she didn't want him to go. The queen held her daughter close. For a moment, all her royal strength faded, replaced with pure motherly worry. She stroked Lyra's hair gently. "She needs medical help immediately," Aaron said. The queen nodded. She gave a silent hand gesture, and medics rushed forward with a floating stretcher. They lifted Lyra carefully, scanning her with advanced instruments. Blue light shimmered across her body as they treated her pain. Lyra reached toward Aaron again, but the medics gently placed her hand down so they could continue working. Her eyes stayed fixed on him. Aaron gave her a calm nod. "You'll be all right." The Queen watched this exchange with a strange expression, part confusion, part curiosity, part respect she didn't want to admit. A soldier approached her. "Your Majesty, do you wish to detain the human?" The Queen hesitated. All eyes turned to her. Even Aaron stood still, ready for whatever came next. "No," she said finally. "He protected the princess. He will not be harmed." Another soldier frowned. "But humans," the Queen silenced him with a glare sharper than any weapon. "Your queen has spoken." Aaron didn't know whether to feel relieved or uneasy. This moment could turn in any direction. The Queen faced him again. "Human," she said slowly. "You carried my daughter for hours. You defended her. You risked your life. Why?" Aaron thought for a moment before answering. "Because she needed help. And because that's what we do. Humans look out for others." The Queen studied him, trying to understand something new, something that didn't match what her empire told her about humans. She gave a slow nod, as if accepting something difficult. "You said your name is Aaron Holt," she said. "Yes, you will come with us," she said. It was not a threat. It sounded more like a request coded inside a command. Aaron hesitated. "My team will be looking for me." "We will locate them," she said. "No harm will come to them. I give you my word." The soldiers opened a path between them. The Queen gestured for him to walk with her. Aaron glanced at Lyra again. Her eyes were closed now. The medics giving her medicine. She looked peaceful. Safe. He followed the Queen cautiously as they approached the landing ship. The door opened with a soft hum, revealing a bright interior of silver light and smooth walls. The Illyrians inside bowed deeply to their queen. Aaron stepped inside, feeling dozens of eyes turned toward him. Most of them were curious. Some were suspicious. But none were hostile anymore. Lyra was brought aboard the same ship, her stretcher floating gently. Aaron stayed near, knowing she would want a familiar presence when she woke. As the ship lifted off the ground, Aaron looked out the window. The whole jungle spread out beneath them like a green ocean. The human camp was somewhere out there. He wondered what his team would think when they heard he had boarded an alien flagship. Above them, the rest of the fleet shifted into formation, ready to escort the Queen back to her capital. The ship rose higher, breaking through the clouds, until the stars filled the sky. The Queen stood next to Aaron, her eyes fixed on the stars as well. For the first time, her voice softened. "Our people feared humans," she said quietly. "Our history books say your kind brings conflict wherever you go." Aaron replied gently. "History books don't always tell the whole truth." She turned her head slightly, studying him again. "Perhaps not." Lyra stirred in her sleep, whispering something too soft to hear. The Queen glanced at her daughter, and Aaron saw the deep worry behind her strong expression. "She trusts you," the Queen said. "It is unusual." Aaron gave a small smile. "She's strong, stronger than she thinks." The Queen didn't answer, but her eyes softened for a brief moment. The ship continued rising, carrying them toward the unknown. The tension between human and Illyrian shadows began to fade, replaced by something fragile but real: understanding. And without speaking it aloud, everyone on the ship knew. Everything was about to change. The final hours of the long journey back to the Zyran capital passed slowly for Orion. He sat near Lyra's medical bed, watching the soft glow of the healing field around her. Her breathing was steadier now, calmer than before, and every moment he saw improvement. Relief washed through him. The medical team assured him she would fully recover, but Orion stayed close anyway, because he wanted to be the first familiar face she saw when she woke. He felt responsible for her, not because he had been ordered to protect her, but because he cared. Outside the medical chamber window, the Zyran fleet traveled in a smooth formation. The ships glided silently, their silver hulls catching streaks of cosmic light. For the first time in many cycles, the fleet was not preparing for battle, not chasing trespassers, not responding to threats. They were escorting a human, one lone human, and an injured princess. The Queen's order had changed everything. All ships stand down. That command was still echoing in Orion's mind like a memory he would never forget. Many Zyran officers still found the situation strange, even unbelievable. Their heir, the princess of an entire empire, had been found injured on the cliffs of a dangerous moon, and the one who saved her was a human explorer they had never met. A human who had no rank in their system, no political ties, no military power. Yet the Queen's trust in him was growing stronger every hour. When the ship finally reached the capital station, a soft chime filled the medical bay. Orion stood up, brushed off his worn jacket, and looked at Lyra one last time before the doors opened. Zyran guards stepped in with respectful bows. They were different from before. There was no hostility, no suspicion, only calm, formal acknowledgement. "The Queen requests your presence," one guard said. Orion nodded, unsure of what waited for him, but ready to face whatever came. He followed them through tall corridors filled with glowing blue patterns on the walls. The architecture was smooth and elegant, shaped like flowing waves. Everywhere he walked, Zyrans paused, to stare not with anger or fear, but with quiet curiosity. Stories of a human carrying their injured princess had already spread across the capital. A pair of massive crystal doors opened, revealing the Queen's private hall. It was quiet, with soft lights and a gentle hum from floating lanterns. Queen Alindra stood at the center, tall and graceful, her long silver robes trailing behind her like drifting starlight. Her eyes were kind but sharp, filled with both wisdom and a mother's concern. "Human Orion," she said softly. "You have returned." He bowed slightly, unsure if that was correct Zyran etiquette, but the Queen smiled as if approving the gesture. "Your daughter is safe," Orion said. "She will heal." Alindra closed her eyes in relief, letting out a long breath. "I knew you would protect her," she said, "but I did not expect the way you carried her, refusing to stop even when your own body was exhausted. That act reached every heart in my fleet." Orion felt shy under the praise. "I only did what anyone should do," he said. "She was hurt. I couldn't leave her. That is why your actions matter," the Queen said, stepping closer. "There are worlds where people turn away from strangers, but you did not hesitate. You showed compassion without expecting anything in return. It is not something we see often between our species." The hall grew quiet. Orion wondered if she would ask something more, something political or heavy. But she surprised him. "There will be no war with your people," she said. "Not now. Not after this. Your kindness has changed how we see your entire species." Orion blinked, stunned. He knew humans were not always seen positively in distant regions of space. Some considered them unpredictable or reckless. To earn peace, not just safety for himself, but peace for humanity, was more than he had ever imagined. I don't know what to say," he whispered. "No words are needed. Only remember that your choice saved more lives than you realize." Before he could speak again, a soft sound came from the hallway behind him. Orion turned to see Lyra standing there, with support from a medical attendant. She was pale but smiling gently, her purple eyes shining with relief. "You are walking already?" Orion asked, rushing to her side. Lyra laughed softly. "The healers insisted I rest longer, but I told them I needed to speak with you." The Queen watched her daughter with a mixture of love and worry. "You should be lying down," she reminded. But there was no anger in her voice. "I will rest soon," Lyra assured. Then she turned to Orion. "I remember everything. You carried me even when I begged you to leave me. You refused. You protected me with all your strength. I owe you my life." "You owe me nothing," Orion said. "You would have done the same." Lyra looked down for a moment. "Many claim they would, but few actually do." When she lifted her eyes again, they held warmth and sincerity. "Thank you, Orion. Truly." The Queen stepped forward again. "My daughter is right. What you did cannot be repaid with simple gratitude. Our empire stands in your debt." Orion shook his head. "I didn't do it to be rewarded. I just wanted her to be safe." Elendra placed one hand lightly on his shoulder. Sometimes, the greatest rewards come to those who do not seek them. The hall became peaceful again, filled with quiet understanding. But then the queen motioned to a nearby balcony. "Walk with me," she said. Orion followed her outside. The balcony opened to a breathtaking view of the capital: tall silver towers, glowing bridges, floating gardens, and shimmering sky lanes filled with gentle streams of light. It felt like looking into the heart of a civilization that had existed for thousands of years. "You must understand," the queen said, resting her hand on the railing. "Our people have long believed that humans are too chaotic to be trusted, too emotional, too unpredictable. We kept our distance. But your actions forced us to question that belief." She turned toward him again. "Because of you, we are opening a new diplomatic path, a peaceful alliance, one that could change the future of both our peoples." Orion felt the weight of her words. He had expected gratitude, maybe a gift or safe passage home. But this was much bigger. "I'm honored," he said, choosing his words carefully. "You will not return to your world immediately," the queen said. "Not as a prisoner, but as a guest, as a bridge between our civilizations." Orion considered this quietly. The idea of staying among the Xyrans, learning from them, helping humans understand them, it was overwhelming, but also exciting. "I think I can do that," he said. The queen smiled. Before long, Lyra stepped out onto the balcony too. The medical attendant followed behind her, ready to help if needed, but she waved them off gently. "I hope you are not planning to leave too soon," she said to Orion. He actually laughed a little. "It seems the queen has plans for me." Lyra moved closer, her expression softening. "Good. Because I wanted to show you something." She lifted a small device from her pocket. When she tapped it, a hologram appeared, an image of him carrying her through the storm on the cliff. The moment looked intense but peaceful. His arms wrapped protectively around her while the wind rushed around them. "It was captured from the emergency drone," she said. This moment spread across the fleet. Many Xyrans cried when they saw it. Orion blushed slightly, scratching his head. "I didn't know I'd become a picture." Lyra laughed. "You became a symbol." The queen spoke again. "A symbol that humans can be trusted, that compassion can cross species, that empathy is stronger than fear." The hologram faded gently. That evening, the queen arranged a gathering. Not a grand ceremony, but a peaceful gathering of advisors, scientists, explorers, and diplomats. Orion sat beside Lyra, who rested her hand lightly on the table, because her strength still had not fully returned. The atmosphere was calm and full of curiosity. Xyrans asked him questions not about weapons or military, but about Earth, human culture, music, food, stories, and emotions. For the first time, they were looking at him not as a stranger, but as a friend. Later, when the gathering ended and the halls grew quiet, Orion walked with Lyra through the gardens. Floating lights drifted between the trees, like gentle fireflies. The air was warm and filled with soft, melodic hums from the plants. "You changed everything," Lyra said softly. "I just did what felt right," he replied. "Exactly," she said. "And sometimes that is enough to change a whole empire." They walked a little longer until they reached a small bridge overlooking a lake that shimmered like liquid stars. "What happens now?" Orion asked. Lyra smiled at him, her eyes bright despite the long day. "Now, we build a future. One where humans and Xyrans are not enemies. One where compassion matters more than fear." Orion looked across the glowing city, thinking of how a single moment choosing to carry an injured girl had changed the path of entire civilizations. He took a deep breath. "I'm ready," he said, and for the first time since the journey began, everything felt peaceful. The night, the city, the lake, the stars, they all reflected the same truth. A human's simple act of kindness had opened a new chapter for two worlds. A chapter built not on power, but on compassion. A chapter that would be remembered for generations. A chapter that began when a human carried an injured alien girl, and the queen ordered all ships to stand down.